Hope you are doing good. We have been studying this Sale of Goods Act, and we are on Unit 3, as you all remember. So we have done half of the portion of Unit 3. That means we have discussed the basic things regarding the ownership, when does it transfers. Hello everyone, again, so whosoever is joining. So we have studied regarding the ownership rights, when do they transfer in case of specific goods, when they are in deliverable state, when they are not in deliverable state, or whatever the case may be. Then we have also discussed about the uncertain goods. There were two important rules which we had to remember, or we have to remember, I would say. One is that the ownership will be transferred only if the uncertain goods are ascertained and they are appropriated. So we understood the meaning of appropriated also in the last session, how this appropriation is done. And there was a case of deemed appropriation also. As soon as you put the goods to the carrier or you load the goods on the carrier, so it is a kind of deemed appropriation, and ownership transfers to the buyer in that case. And then we studied about sale on approval also, if you remember. So sale on approval basis, when does the ownership passes to the other person? So until unless the buyer accepts or give any kind of approval from his side, that is one of the case when the ownership transfers. Second case is when he retains the goods even after the time period. Third one was whether he makes the payment of it, or fourth is when he gives any kind of does any kind of act which implies that he wants to have the ownership. So maybe he's transferring those goods, or maybe he's gifting those specific goods to someone else, giving on pledge or anything like that. So some of you have already answered also. You are simultaneously recalling all the topics, and that is very good. Very nice. Yeah. So let me just quickly start with today's session. So today, firstly, we will discuss about the section 26, that is ownership. The risk passes with the ownership. That is what we will understand there. And then non-owners point also. Yes, Akshat, we will discuss this insurance point maybe at the end of the topic. Thank you for reminding. One thing, when we are studying this topic regarding non-owners can also transfer. So what you have to keep it in your mind that normal rule, the general rule is that only a person who's the owner of the goods can transfer a better title, or the owner himself can transfer his title to someone else, or he can transfer the ownership rights to someone else. But there are some circumstances wherein we will see that even if a person is not the owner of the goods, for example, he is a mercantile agent, or maybe there are many other cases which we will be discussing through the PPT. So in all those cases, we will see that the person who is selling the goods is not the actual owner of the goods. So the person whosoever is selling the goods is also known as a seller, because in the definition of seller, it was not mentioned that he has to be the owner of the goods. So it was only mentioned that seller is a person who sells or agrees to sell. Whether or not he is the owner, it's not mentioned there. Okay. So even if a person who is not the owner of the goods, and still if he's selling the goods, he will be categorized in the definition of seller. Okay. So let me quickly start the presentation. All of you have to let me know whether it is visible or not. Okay. Just a second. We had done this one, and I think we are on the next topic. Okay, this was left that day, so I'll start with this topic. Sale for cash only or return. Sometimes when you order online also, it says that only cash on delivery option is available. So whenever the goods shall be delivered, you have to make the payment. Otherwise, these goods will be returned back to the supplier or the seller. You will not have the possession of the goods. So that is what the case here is, sale for cash only. So let us see what is there in this topic. Where the goods have been delivered by a person on sale or return, on the terms that the goods were to remain the property of the seller till they are paid for, the property therein does not pass to the buyer. So basically, this is a subtopic for cash for this sale on approval basis. So in case of sale on approval basis, if there is a specific condition there, ownership will pass only if you make the payment. Then only the ownership will pass. So if that is the case, we will apply this rule. Otherwise, what it says that if you do not pay the cash, the goods shall be returned to the seller. Okay, so I'm just reading it again. Where the goods have been delivered by a person on sale or return on the terms that goods were to remain the property of the seller. That means seller will remain the owner of the goods until unless you pay for it. So the property therein does not pass. Property means title or the ownership will not pass to the buyer until the terms are complied with. That is, the cash is paid for them. So that is what is contained here. And there is an example also with respect to this particular topic. A delivered his jewelry to B. So A is seller, goods are jewelry, and B is buyer. And this is done on sale for cash only or return. So either you do the cash sales or you better return the goods. So that is what the case is. Or it is generally said that goods are taken on approval and only the ownership will pass when the payment shall be done. So payment is the only medium when the ownership will pass. Okay, if they are taken on approval also. So it was expressly provided that jewelry shall remain A's property until the price is paid. Before payment, B pledged the jewelry with C. So what was held in this case? At the time of pledge, ownership was not transferred to B. Hence, the pledge was not valid. A could not recover the jewelry. So A is the seller. He can recover the jewelry from the other person, that is the new buyer, which is C in this case. So if you check the earlier topic, which is sale on approval basis, it talked about various situations wherein payment was one of the medium or one of the ways. The other ways was you can accept the goods, you can give the approval for the goods, you can retain them. And if you do any act wherein you are selling the goods to some other person, in that case also the ownership is passed. But here specifically what is mentioned that here A has delivered the goods to B on approval basis, but it is cash only or return. Or specifically it is to be mentioned that it is approval sales, it is sale on approval basis, but payment has to be made if you want the ownership. So even if B transfers the goods to someone else, the ownership will not pass. But if we just remove this line, I mean, if this particular line is removed from here, sale for cash only if you remove this, so it is sale on return basis. Suppose it is sale on return basis, then in that case, if this person passes on the goods to other person, then C will have the ownership rights. And C has become the owner, therefore A can recover the payment from B also. So that is what normally in this case he has pledged. So in case of pledge, obviously the ownership does not pass to the other person, but it gives A the right to receive the money from B. Okay, in that case, the sale has happened. This will mean that through your implied act, in the case of sale on approval basis, the ownership has been transferred if it was a normal case. But here in this case, since it is specifically mentioned that ownership will pass only if cash is paid or payment is made, basically. So if the payment is not done and still the property is passed to someone else, then it will not convey that the title has passed or the ownership has passed. So therefore, A has full rights to recover the jewelry from C. So that is what is written here. Okay. So that is what we have to understand in this particular case. And here also it is written property does not pass even if the buyer pledges or sells the goods until the payment is made. So here for this particular topic, since it is clearly mentioned, it is sale for cash only. We will not accept anything other than cash or any other medium of acceptance. We will not accept. So we will accept only cash payments. So once the payment is done, you will get the ownership rights. So that is there in this particular topic. I think this was a simple one. We can move on to the next topic. risk prima facie passes with the property. So this is the rule. This is the general rule, section 26. Again and again, we have been discussing this throughout, because once you have made the sale, then in that case, who is the owner? Based on that topic itself, a lot of things are associated with that. So we have to understand the basic fact that who is the owner and how does the ownership transfers. So risk always follows the ownership. So whosoever is owner, it will be his or her risk. Okay. So that is what we have to understand. So if goods are damaged, when the ownership has been passed to buyer, then in that case, buyer will be fully responsible, or he will bear the loss caused by any kind of damage. So let me just read it out for you. Unless otherwise agreed, जब तक कुछ और नहीं कहा हो, ठीक है? Unless otherwise agreed simply means unless anything else is discussed or agreed between the parties. In that, otherwise, then we have this rule which is stated in section 26. So what does it say? The goods remain at the seller's risk until the property therein is transferred to the buyer. So until and unless the property transfers to buyer, it will remain the seller's risk, because seller is the owner. Seller is the owner till the property or the title passes to the buyer. So till the point of time the ownership does not pass, it remains the risk of the seller. And as soon as the ownership is passed to the buyer will bear all the risk. But when the property therein is transferred to the buyer, the goods are at the buyer's risk, whether delivery has been made or not. So again, this has been highlighted here. Let me just mark it for you, whether the delivery has been made or not. So again, just remember the example of constructive delivery, wherein the goods were still in the warehouse of the seller only, and some fire broke out. Then in that case, the whole of the loss which is caused by fire will be borne by the buyer only. So it is not a fault of, it is basically not the loss of the seller. So whether delivery has been made or not, that is not a concern here. It is basically talking about whosoever has the ownership will have the risk. Okay. So the next thing which is mentioned here is that this is the final rule. So before the property passes, before the title or before the ownership passes, the seller will bear the risk, whether or not the goods are with the seller, whether or not the delivery has been made, basically. And after the property passes, buyer will bear the risk, whether the delivery has been made or not. So once owner, he is always the owner of the risk. That is clearly mentioned here. I hope this slide is clear. Is there any doubt in this particular topic? Yeah, exceptions we will be discussing now. Yes, exceptions we will be discussing now after this. Yeah. Just allow me a minute to move on to the next part, which is contained here. So a bid, this is an example which is given to given for all of you to understand it better. So we will study that sale may happen with auction. In one of the ways of conducting sale is auction, by conducting auction. So let me ask you, first of all, without discussing this example, how many of you have seen the movie Welcome? How many of you have seen the movie Welcome? Where Anil Kapoor, Welcome first part, where Anil Kapoor makes paintings and he gives them on auction, and Akshay Kumar is the auctioneer, I guess. Pragati has seen. No one else has seen Welcome movie. Ananya has also seen. So Anil Kapoor makes paintings and he offers them to be sold out in an auction. So auction is a place where you are appointing one person, that is auctioneer. He will sell on your behalf. So he is acting as an agent on your behalf. So for the time being, he is also considered as a seller. So auctioneer is selling on your behalf. It's your painting. You have the ownership right, but it is sold by the other person. So how does sale happen in auction? So normally they ask people to bid for the price, bid for that particular article or particular goods which are there. So if you have one painting, they will ask you how much you would like to bid for it. So maybe some person is saying 10,000, 20,000, or maybe in lakhs. So it goes on from person to person, and they will keep on asking for further bids. And when does it finalize? It finalizes on the highest bid. So whoever has bid the highest amount, the final sale, the sale actually finalizes on that person. But again, what is the medium to show that it has been finally, agreed by the parties? So they fall the hammer. So by hammer, they do 1, 2, and 3. Finally, they stamp it like that. So that is how that is. And this example you have also studied maybe in the Contract Act. It is an implied contract. Implied contract, why we say? Because here they are implying it by conduct or behavior. With the fall of hammer, we can say that yes, the deal has happened, or the deal has been signed, or it has been actually agreed between buyer and seller that the person is ready to purchase it at that particular price. Okay, so that is what we are discussing here. One of the part you will discuss here in this contract of sale or sale of goods act, I would say, there's a particular section wherein auction sales are discussed at length. So we will discuss that in unit 4 on fall of hammer. How does it take place? So what has happened in this particular auction sale? A bids for an antique painting at a sale by auction. So A is bidding. So he is basically buyer. He wants to purchase a painting. There's an antique painting, which is the goods for our case, and the sale is happening by auction. After the bid, when the auctioneer, who is the actual person who is the actually the agent of the seller, so after the bid, when the auctioneer struck his hammer to signify the acceptance of the bid, he hit the antique, which gets damaged. So maybe not intentionally, but somehow the painting got damaged with the fall of the hammer. So even though the final significance of acceptance, or the final acceptance, was not given by the fall of hammer, before that itself, because 3 times it has to be done. So maybe before the third fall of hammer itself, the painting got damaged. What will happen about the ownership? Who will bear the loss? That is what the question is. So if it had happened after the third fall of hammer, the ownership would have passed. But if it is happening before that, in that case, the seller is still the owner, so he will bear the risk. So here it is mentioned that the risk here shall be borne, or the loss here shall be borne by the seller, because the ownership had not yet passed from seller to buyer. So in case of auction sale, you have to be very careful in understanding when does the ownership passes. So it passes only after the fall of a hammer. Okay, so it's normally 3 times. So when the hammer falls, it is ultimately given to the other person. The ownership transfers. Let's move on. So there are 2 qualifications, or there are 2 important things or conditions which we have to understand when we are studying about this rule. The rule is basically risk follows the ownership. Here it says that the first thing is delay caused by either party's fault. So if there is any kind of delay with respect to what? So seller will cause a delay of delivering the goods. So if there is any delay because of some party's fault, then what will happen? Whether the ownership will transfer, or who will bear the loss? That is what is discussed here in detail. So let me first read it out for you, and then we will discuss the example also. So where the delivery of goods has been delayed. So it is basically talking about the delivery of the goods which has been delayed because of the fault of either of the buyer or seller. Maybe the buyer is saying, please don't deliver now, deliver it tomorrow or day after, I'm not at home, something like that. And or it may be the other way, that seller is not delivering within time, he's delaying by any reason. So the goods are at the risk of the party who is in fault. So whatever damage has happened due to the reason of delay, in that case, the party who is in default shall bear the loss, irrespective of the fact that whether ownership has been passed or not. So as regards any loss which might not have occurred, but for such fault. So loss might not have occurred, but due to delay, the loss has occurred now. So because it is due to some delay, so the party who is at fault for such delay will be clearly held responsible, and he or she will have to bear the loss. So if it is seller's fault, that he had delayed it purposefully or purposely or any reason, by any of his reason. So in that case, seller will bear the loss in that case. And if it is due to the delay caused by buyer, then in that case, buyer will bear all the loss. So that is what is meant here. What you have to understand for this particular topic, you have to understand whether any kind of delay is caused. So delay with respect to delivery of the goods, and if it is caused due to a fault of any of the parties. So if it is due to the fault of delays happening due to fault of seller or fault of buyer. So whosoever's fault is there will ultimately bear the loss. Okay. Because the buyer will say it's not my fault. It's because of you the delay has happened. The goods could not pass on to me. So it is your fault, you will bear the loss. So that is the case which is mentioned here. Second thing is duties of bailee shall continue. So do you all remember who is a bailee? Who is a bailee? You might have read this term in Contract Act. Who's a bailee? In bailment, you might have read that a person who receives the good for some specific purpose, and after the accomplishment of the purpose, he has to return those goods. Okay, that person is not the owner. Normally, in case of bailment, ownership does not passes. So that is what we are studying here. So here, let me just read it out for you, and then we will again discuss it with some example. Even when the risk has passed generally, the duties and liabilities of the seller or the buyer as bailee of the goods for the other party remains unaffected. It is their duty to take care of the goods as a man of ordinary prudence. So let me give you the example of constructive delivery. So again, just go back and remember what constructive delivery was. So buyer had ordered some cycles or electric vehicles, let us assume that, and he has asked the seller to keep that in the warehouse, in his warehouse only. The delivery, the buyer said that let me have the delivery after a month. So he has delayed the delivery. That is the kind of thing which is mentioned here. So meanwhile, it is the duty of the seller, because seller is not the owner. The ownership has already been passed because the goods were in deliverable state. The goods were specific and in deliverable state, but the buyer did not want the goods then and there. He wanted them after a month or so. So he has delayed the delivery process. So meanwhile, the seller is now in the position of a bailee. He has to take care of the goods. He has to take care of the goods like a person of ordinary prudence. Ordinary prudence means in normal circumstance, how do you take care of the things? So likewise, the seller has to take care of those goods. He cannot say that since I am not the owner, I will not take care of the things. Let the fire broke out, let him bear the loss. He cannot say that way. So he has to be a vigilant person. He has to take normal steps, or the steps which any normal person would have taken to take care of those goods. But still, if something has happened which was not in his control, then in that case, he will not be made liable for that thing particularly. So that is what is mentioned there. The duty of bailee will continue even if the delivery process has been delayed. Okay, so that is what is mentioned here. Let me quickly move on to the next thing. Maybe some example is there. Let me just check that. Yeah, A contracted to sell 100 bales of cotton to B to be delivered in February. B took the delivery. So who is A? Who is B? A contracted to sell 100 bales of cotton to B. So B is buyer, A is seller, and this bales of cotton is basically the goods. And the delivery has to take place in February. B took the delivery of part of the cotton, but made a default in accepting the remaining bales. So he has taken part delivery, maybe 60 or 70 bales he has taken, and rest of that he could not. So that is what is mentioned there. B took the delivery of part of the cotton, but made a default in accepting the remaining bales. Consequently, the cotton becomes unfit for use, because after some time, this cotton will not be of any use because it was more likely to be useful at that point of time. But after some time which has, it has to be taken up within February itself, maybe after 2 or 3 months, that the quality lowers of that particular cotton. So that is why it is making it unfit for use. So therefore, the loss will be borne by the buyer. Why the loss will be borne by the buyer? Because of buyer, the delay had happened. He did not took the full delivery in time, and therefore the value of the cotton deteriorated. So the delay was caused by his fault, and the spoilage would not have occurred unless if that particular fault had not happened. So that is what is mentioned. So the whole loss is due to the fault of buyer. Therefore, he has to bear the loss. That is what is mentioned here. Are you getting this example? Is there any doubt here? So that we can start with the next topic, which is the exceptions for the ownership. That means even if there is a non-owner, he can transfer a better title. Okay, only Vishnu is saying yes. What about others? Any doubt? Dakshita is also okay. Let us proceed then. Okay, just be energetic, students. You have to be very, very energetic. This unit 3, it is a very lengthy topic, and still a lot of things are remaining. So we have to cover up each and everything in this session. So it is mentioned here that parties may, by special agreement, stipulate that risk passes sometimes before or after the property passes. Section 26 is the default and not a ceiling. So if nothing is discussed between the parties at the time of making the contract, Section 26 will prevail. What is Section 26? It says that risk follows the ownership. But with the express agreement, with the express conditions, terms and conditions, you can mention that who will be the owner and who will bear the loss in case of the circumstances. So this can again be, discussed at the time of contract. So this section 26 can be surpassed also if you have made a proper agreement with respect to that. So, okay, next topic is this transfer of title by non-owners. So section 27 till section 30, we will discuss what are the various circumstances wherein even a non-owner can transfer the title. Non-owner can also transfer the ownership. Okay, so this is the Latin term which you have to remember. This topic can be asked in two ways. Maybe a direct question can be there wherein you will be given this particular Latin maxim and you will be asked to elaborate. So you have to say that only owner can pass on the better title to the other person. However, there are some exceptional cases also, and then you have to elaborate on them. The other way in which the examiner can ask you is that they will give you a case study. You will see that a person who is not the owner is still selling the goods. So whether the ownership will pass to the other person or not. So in that case, again, you have to quote this Latin maxim. You have to quote section 27 and various exceptions, whichever is being discussed in that particular case study, you have to mention that. Okay, so accordingly, we are also trying to understand this particular topic. So let us study the theory part first, and then one by one, we will take some examples to understand it further in detail. So it is simply meaning no one can give what he has not got. जो आपके पास है ही नहीं वो आप किसी और को कैसे दोगे? So until unless you yourself have an ownership right, then only you will be able to pass it on to other. Okay. So that is what is mentioned in this section 27, which is the general rule. The seller cannot transfer a better title to the buyer for the goods than he himself has. So whatever he has, that only he can transfer it to other person. If the seller is not the owner, the buyer also will not become the owner. The buyer's title is the same as that of the seller. So if seller is the owner, the buyer will have all the rights of the seller. And if the buyer further makes the sale, then in that case, the next person will become the owner again if the earlier person was the owner. So the chain continues. So if you are the owner, then only you can pass on the better title to someone else. What is the example? If A sells some stolen goods, see, it's purposely mentioned here that the goods are stolen. That means they do not belong to the seller. The A who is selling the goods, he is not the owner. He has these stolen goods and he is now further selling it to B. So there's a thief, maybe he has stole a television or something and then he has given it to A to further sell it. Now A is selling those goods to B, who buys them in good faith. B gets no title, even though B says that I did not have any idea that these were stolen goods or whatnot. What is my fault in that? I have already made the payment. I should get the goods for which I have made the payment. In that case, also, he will not get the ownership because the goods do not belong to the person from whom you are receiving them. So, therefore, it is very important to understand that seller, if he himself is not the owner, he cannot pass on the title to the other person. So therefore, what are the rights available to the buyer here is that he can recover the price from the seller if the goods are not his. So therefore, the condition as to title, implied condition as to title applies here. Okay. So that is what is contained in this example. The true owner has the right to get the goods back from B. So again, you are referring to two different topics in this particular example. One is in this topic, we are saying that if you are not the seller, you cannot transfer the ownership. And what are the rights of the person who has got these kind of goods? Because he will have to return it to the true owner. So it is a kind of implied condition as to title. So here, if B has, B was supposed to return these goods because they belong to someone else, then he can claim his money back from the this person A, that is the seller. Next example, P, the hirer of a vehicle under a hire purchase agreement, sell it to Q. Normally, in case of hire purchase, you are only a kind of bailee. That means you can use the machinery or vehicle for your purpose, but after accomplishment of the purpose, you will have to return it back to the owner. So P, who is not actually the owner of the goods, he is simply the hirer or he is a tenant kind of. He has taken this on rent. So he has taken a vehicle on rent and however, he has further sold it to Q. Q, he is not aware of whether person from whom he is getting the goods is the owner or not. So he has given the full money. He has taken the vehicle. But later on, when it is discovered that the actual owner is coming to him and he's asking for the vehicle, then Q is supposed to return it to the true owner. Then what is the right available to Q? Q can recover the money from P. Whatever he has made the payment to P or any damage has happened, he can claim it from P. That is the thing which is given here. Let me just read it out for you. P, the hirer of a vehicle, under a hire purchase agreement, sells it to Q. Q, though a bona fide purchaser. Bona fide purchaser means he is not aware that P is not the owner of the goods. So he is acting in good faith. This word you will again and again see in the whole chapter or in this topic at least, that a person is acting in good faith. That means he is not aware what what has happened earlier. He is only concerned about the current transaction. He believes that everything is fine, nothing, no fraud is being done. So likewise, this person is a bona fide purchaser. He is not aware that the person from whom he is buying is owner or not owner, whatever the case is. Okay. So he does not acquire the ownership here. At most, he acquires the same right as that of the hirer. So he may become the hirer, but he cannot become the owner of the goods. So that is given here. But there are some exceptions to this rule. Let us discuss the examples and then if you have any queries, we can get that. Okay, Jyoti is saying something, ma'am, because the buyer has no knowledge of the true owner, then the buyer has not under the good title. Correct. Since obviously he did not have the idea. So even if you are acting in good faith, that cannot be taken as an excuse. We will study all these examples and then you will realize that this is a very, very important thing to be understood. Because whenever we are, purchasing things, we do not ask the other person whether you are the owner of the goods or not. So that is why we have to be very cautious. We have to be very careful while purchasing the goods. And it is also an implied condition, therefore, that if we have paid any amount to the seller, and even if the seller is not the owner, he will have to pay us the whole amount back. That is the implied condition. Okay. So first exception, let us discuss. There will be 8 exceptions here. Total 8 exceptions we have to discuss. So let us quickly take this topic. Where a non-owner can convey a good title. So what are the circumstances where even a non-owner can pass on a good title? So the first point here is sale by mercantile agent. So normally who is an agent? The mercantile agent is basically a person who sells goods on behalf of the seller. So he has all the rights, he has all the powers as that of the seller. And his definition, the definition of mercantile agent was also discussed in Unit 1, if you remember that. So what are his rights? If you want to know, you can just note it down. The seller, mercantile agent, basically, the mercantile agent has the right to sell, consign, buy, and raise money on security. So he has basically 4 rights. Let me just write this for you. So he has right to sell, he has right to consign. So goods can be sold on consignment also. He can further sell it for consignment. Then he can even buy if required at certain point of time. If he thinks that the stock is going down, it has to be refilled. So on behalf of seller, he can, purchase the goods also. Next, he can raise money on security. That means he can pledge something and receive money also. So that these are the 4 powers which are available. These are the 4 powers which are available. Sorry. These are the 4 powers or rights which are available to a mercantile agent. So whenever a mercantile agent is making a sale, whether he will be able to pass on the title, yes, he will be able to pass on the title because he has a right to further sell it to the other person, and the other person will have the ownership. So even though the mercantile agent himself is not the owner, the next person to whom he sells, that means the buyer, he will gain the title, he will have the full control over the goods, he will have the ownership rights. But there are a few conditions which you have to understand here. What is the first condition? That this mercantile agent should have the possession of the goods with the consent of the owner. So he has the consent of the owner to sell these goods, or firstly, he should have the possession of the goods. This simply means that the owner, that is the seller himself, has given him the goods to further sell it. Okay, that is the first point. Second, the sale was made when acting in the ordinary course of the business as the mercantile agent. So whatever things he has done, whatever action he has taken, that is done through the in the ordinary course of the business. So ordinary course means being an agent, what all his responsibility was in the normal circumstances, in the normal course of the conduct of the business. So if he has used that power, then it is okay, not in the extraordinary circumstances. So suppose the seller is asking him to sell the goods which are there. He has not asked him to sell the asset or the furniture of the shop. So if the mercantile agent is selling the normal goods, obviously he will pass on the title to the other person. But if he sells the asset of the seller, like the furniture, or maybe the computer system on which he generally does do the entries and all, he cannot do that. So or only in the ordinary course of business, any sale has happened, then in that case the ownership will pass on to the next person. And the third and most important point, which you will find in all these further cases, in all the exception cases which we will be discussing, this is the point where the buyer has acted in good faith. So the buyer is unaware whether the person with whom he is dealing is actual owner or the agent. So if the buyer is acting in good faith and he had no notice that the seller had no authority to sell, that the person with whom he is dealing is not the actual owner, rather he is just the agent. If that part is not known to the buyer, then in that case, ownership will pass on to him. Is this point clear? Because this last point you will see in each and every exception, which we will read further. Okay, let us go to the next exception. Next exception is sale by one of the joint owner. Sale by one of the joint owner. So how is it done? Just assume that during articleship, let me just assume a situation wherein you all people have cleared your foundation, you have stepped into the intermediate level, you have cleared that as well, and then now you are into your articleship. Okay, so when you are going for articleship, maybe you are going out of your city and you are staying at some other city, and in a PG or maybe in some hostel, you are staying with two or three people staying in one room. So in that room where three people are staying, then you purchase a washing machine for regular laundry purpose. So you have contributed equally. All the three of you have contributed equally, and you have purchased a washing machine. Now, when your articleship is over, suppose, then all of you want to move out of that particular place, what will happen to that washing machine? Who will take that washing machine? Who is the owner of that washing machine? Since it was taken jointly, it is said that this is in the joint ownership. So washing machine has three owners. It just does not have one, but it has three owners. But now washing machine cannot be divided into three parts, and each of one can get the one third portion. It cannot happen like that. It is not severable goods. It cannot be severed. It cannot be detached, or it cannot be separated basically. So, or it cannot be divided. So it is indivisible goods. So in that case, what happens is, if other two friends tell you that why don't you have the complete possession of the goods? I'm not saying ownership. I'm just saying that one of the persons, suppose A, B, and C, three owners are there. Then in that case, B and C have agreed that let A have the complete possession of the washing machine. So if A is selling it further to D, A is further selling it to D, then what will happen? Can A alone sell this goods to D, because he himself is not the owner of the goods? A, B, C are combinedly the owner of the goods. So if with the permission of B and C, he is having the possession of the goods and he is further selling it to D, D, that is the buyer, will get the ownership rights. Even though the person who is selling himself has the one third ownership only, but still the buyer will get the complete ownership when these conditions are fulfilled. So let me just read the condition for you. If one of the several joint owner has the sole possession, so in our case it was A, he had the sole possession of the goods by permission of the co-owner. Who were the co-owners? B and C were the co-owners here. The property in the goods is transferred to any person who buys them. So the property will pass to D. D is the new person now who is buying the goods from such joint owner. So ownership will pass provided means this is the condition, that the buyer is purchasing in good faith and without notice that the seller had no authority to sell. So D has to prove that he is acting in good faith. He did not know that A is the joint owner or he is the sole owner of the goods. He is not aware about that. He has just given the money to him and he wants the complete ownership of the washing machine. It is just that thing in his mind. At any point of time, if it is revealed that he had the fact known that he is not the owner of the goods, that means A is not the owner of the goods, in that case, the ownership will not pass. So this is very important to be noted here, that the person who is now getting the goods, that means the buyer, he has to prove that he is acting in good faith and without the notice that the seller had no authority to sell. Okay, so this is the definition of the mercantile agent. We had discussed it earlier also, and here it is given for you. And let us see the example of this joint owners. ABC are three brothers. They are the joint owners of TV and VCR. With the consent of B and C, the VCR and TV were kept in the possession of A. A sells them to P. P will be the buyer here. A is one of the co-owners. He has the possession of the whole goods. He has the possession of the goods, but he is not the owner, complete owner of the goods. Okay, but now P, who buys the good in good faith and without the notice that A had no authority to sell, in that case, P will get a good title for both of these goods. Is this example clear? Sole possession means complete possession. वो washing machine पूरी की पूरी मेरे पास है. इसका मतलब सोल पोजेशन, पूरा मेरे पास है, complete possession, because it cannot be divided into other people, other persons. Next example is, or next exception is sale by a person, sale by a person in possession under a voidable contract. So before I tell you about this exception, let me hear it from you. What is a voidable contract? So can anyone tell me in the chat box, what is a voidable contract? You must have read that in the Indian Contract Act topic. Voidable contract. Voidable contract where the consent is not free and it is caused by, yes, it is void at the option of the aggrieved party, not either parties. It is voidable, Yukti, it is voidable at the option of aggrieved party whose consent is not free, basically. Yes. And what are the cases you might have read here? If you remember, coercion, undue influence, fraud, if you remember all that, yes. So any contract which is made because of coercion, undue influence, fraud, or misrepresentation, then in that case, it is considered as a voidable contract, because at any point of that time, this contract can be cancelled. Akshat, with mistake, there is no voidable contract. If you read it further, if any contract has happened due to mistake, it is not considered as voidable. It will be considered either, that is a separate topic altogether. Yeah, it is void. Exactly, Dakshita. It is completely different topic. We will not take it up here. So, okay, let us come back to our original topic. Here it is mentioned that if there is a case of voidable contract, which means that uh, originally it has been obtained, a person who has, suppose I have this pen and it is under a voidable contract, I have obtained this pen forcefully from someone, the other person has not given it with his consent, then I have taken this pen under the voidable contract. So if I want to further sell it to some other person, then in that case, whether the next person, the buyer, whether he will have the ownership of this pen or not. So that depends on some circumstances, that depends on some conditions to be fulfilled. So what are the conditions? First of all, this should be a voidable contract. Yes, this is a voidable contract because I have taken this pen from someone else. Forcefully, I have taken this pen, maybe due to caution or undue influence, I have taken this pen. Okay, that is first part. To fall into this particular exception, firstly, it has to be a voidable contract. Second thing is that at the time of making the contract with the buyer, the new buyer I'm talking about, at the time of making the contract, the voidable contract which was there, it has not come to an end. So that means the pen, I have taken it from, suppose I have taken it from Pooja. So Pooja has not cancelled the contract. Otherwise, I had to return this pen to Pooja, because voidable contract says that it can be terminated at the option of the aggrieved person. So aggrieved person is Pooja, because without her permission, I have taken her pen, or without her consent, I have taken this. So without her free consent, I would say. So if that is the scenario, and the buyer, the new buyer, he is totally unaware that this is a kind of voidable contract, the subject matter which he is dealing with is belonging to a voidable contract, or simply we can say that the new buyer is acting in good faith. He is completely ignorant about the fact that the thing which I'm dealing with him is under a voidable contract. Then in that case, the buyer, the new buyer, will have the ownership. So let me just read it out for you. A buyer acquires a good title to goods sold to him by the seller who had obtained the possession of the goods under the contract voidable on the ground of. Till this point, just assume that I am the seller. I have obtained this pen under the voidable contract. So Pooja is the original owner of this pen. She has all the right to cancel this contract, but she has to raise a voice for it. But until unless she does that, meanwhile, what I do is I further sell it to other person. So can I sell it to other person, whether the other person will have the ownership right? Yes, the other person will gain the ownership right if at the time of sale, the voidable contract has not terminated, has not cancelled, and the goods are still in my possession. So that is what is mentioned here, provided that the contract had not been rescinded until the time of the sale. Rescinded means cancelled. So if the contract has not been cancelled, because this original contract between me and Pooja had to be cancelled and then the pen had to be returned to Pooja, obviously, if it had been cancelled, then in that case, the next buyer, the new buyer, would not get the right. But since Pooja has not taken any action, and meanwhile I have sold it to someone else, then in that case, the new buyer will gain the ownership rights. So this is what is contained here in this topic. Let me quickly tell you the example also. X fraudulently obtains a diamond ring from Y. Okay, so X obtains the ring. Now he will become a seller. If he is further selling, so X will become the seller now. The contract is voidable at the option of Y. Y here is in the original case, since Y's consent was not free. Here, therefore, we can say that it is voidable at the option of Y. Before the contract is terminated, the contract between X and Y, before it terminated, X is the seller. He is selling the goods now to Z, to some other person, Z, who is an innocent purchaser. This innocent purchaser itself means that Z is unaware of the fact that this diamond ring is under a voidable contract. It has been obtained due to some fraudulent means. He's not aware of that, or we can simply say that Z is acting in good faith. Okay, so in that case, Z will have a good title. Why Z will have a good title? Because he has made the payment. He's unaware of the fact how this ring was obtained and whatsoever. So he is not considered. He will have. I mean, Z, the new person, will get a better title here, even though X is not the owner of the goods. Okay, so here is mentioned that Y cannot recover the ring even if Y cannot recover the ring even if the contract is subsequently set aside. So maybe later on he steps into and now he wants to set aside the contract or he wants to terminate the contract. Still, since the ownership has already been passed, Y will not get any right to recover his diamond ring. Is this example clear or any doubt in this example? Title means ownership. So good title means simply your ownership right is given to someone else. That is the meaning. Next exception is seller in the possession after sale. So this example is purely with respect to the constructive delivery. Seller is still in the possession after sale. So after sale, why we are saying? Because the ownership has been passed on to the buyer and seller is now just holding goods in the position of a bailee in case of constructive delivery. So just imagine that example of constructive delivery, that EV or any cycles are parked in the warehouse of the seller only. So that is the case we will be discussing. If a person has sold goods but continues to be in the possession of them and he sells them to a third person. So if the seller is now, the goods are lying in his warehouse and he's further selling it to some other person, then in that case, the new person, the new buyer, will get a good title if he obtains the delivery in good faith and without notice of the previous sale. So what is the fault of the new buyer? He is unaware totally. He has given the amount, whatever is asked for, and he is totally unaware of the fact that the person who is selling is not the owner. So legally speaking, he will have the full right over the goods. He will have the ownership right over the goods, even though the property in the goods has passed to the first buyer. Okay, so original buyer will lose his right in that case. A pledge or other disposition of the goods or document of title by the seller in possession is equally valid. So any other kind of thing which is happening, if you are selling or give it on a pledge or anything you are doing, it will be valid, equally valid. So that is the meaning here. Let us quickly take this example. During IPL matches, P buys a TV set from R. So P is the buyer and R is the seller. Okay. R agrees to deliver it after some days. So even though it is a case of sale, he's still having the goods with him. So TV set is still with R. Okay. Delivery has been delayed. In the meanwhile, R resells it. Who is R? R is the original seller. He is reselling it to the S, some other person, at a higher price. At a higher price. So earlier maybe he obtained just 10,000 rupees for the TV set, and now he's selling it at 12,000. The same TV he's selling to some other person. S, who has bought it on a higher rate, he's acting in good faith but without the knowledge of the previous sale. So in that case, S will get a good title. And if any money has been paid by P, obviously he will recover it from R. That is the case, but P will not have any right to receive the PV set from R. This case, if any, I mean, you have to now identify under which category of exceptions you will put this case into. So here, if you can see, the first case, if you all remember, let us just quickly recall what all cases we have learned so far. Whether the case is related to mercantile agent, it will fall into this first category. If it is related to joint ownership, it will relate to this second exception. If the case is related to any voidable contract, that is the third exception which we have discussed. If it is a case of constructive delivery kind of thing, then it will relate to this fourth exception. Okay, in all these circumstances, ownership will pass to the new buyer. This is all what we are studying. And the common line is the new buyer is acting in good faith. He does not have any notice of the previous sale. Okay, and the seller who is selling, he's having the possession of the goods, even though he is not the owner, but he has the possession of the goods. Next exception is buyer in possession before property has vested in him. This may be a case of sale on approval basis. Okay, so you can assume that example wherein you have taken a painting on sale on approval for 3 days, and meanwhile you have passed it on to any of your friends. In that case, whether your friend will get the ownership of those that painting or not. So he will get the ownership if he is acting in good faith and everything. So that is what we will read here. Let us see the theory part. Where a buyer, with the consent of the seller, obtains the possession of the goods before the property has passed to him. So with the consent of seller, you are holding the goods, and now you are further selling or giving it on a pledge, or by any way you are disposing it to the third party. In that case, the third person will get a good title. That means the new buyer will get a good title if he obtains the delivery in good faith without notice of any kind of lien or any other right of the original seller. Let us read the example quickly here. Furniture was delivered to P with price payable in 2 installments. Furniture to become B's property on payment on the second installment. So if full payment is made, then only the ownership will pass to the this person, B. Okay. But however, B sold it before the payment of second installment. He sold it further to some other person. So whether the other person, let's take for example, he sold it to C. So whether C will get the good title for this property, yes, he will get the good title because he was totally unaware of the previous sale or anything. So he will get a good title. So the buyer acquired a good title here in this case. Okay. So next is next exception which is given here is effect of estoppel. What is the effect of estoppel? So what do you mean by this term estoppel? Any idea what is the meaning of this term estoppel? Have you read it earlier? Vishnu, in which case you are asking? Who is the owner, first buyer or second buyer? Normally in all these circumstances, we will see the second buyer will become the owner. Pragati is saying incomplete. Regarding what you are saying incomplete? Estoppel. Estoppel means you are not being stopped by someone else. So case to case we will see. Let us see the example first and then we will study the theory part so that it will be easier for you to understand. Okay, let us see this example right here at the bottom. This one. A is said to be, who's a buyer, in the presence of C. Why it is mentioned in the presence of C? Because C is actually the owner of the goods. C is actually the owner of the goods, and in presence of C, A, who is his friend, is saying something to B. Okay. So even if before I take this example, let us just assume that we all are here. I given my notes to Samarth, maybe, and Samarth in front of me is selling my notes to Tanu. So if I am not stopping Samarth from selling my notes to Tanu, in that case, sale will happen. Tanu will get the ownership rights. Why she will get the ownership rights? Because I have not stopped the person selling the goods in front of me. So that is the effect of estoppel. When you're not stopping someone from making any misrepresentation, then in that case, he will assume whatever rights you had, he will assume those rights, then he can transfer the ownership also, because normally that person, the person who was actually acting as an estoppel, he is not the owner, but since being the owner has not stopped that person. The rights which were there with the owner, they pass on to the other person. So that is the case which we will be discussing now. So A said to B, the buyer, in presence of C, that A was the owner of the horse. C. It is clearly mentioned that in the presence of C means actually C is the owner of the horse. C is actually the owner of the horse, but he remained silent. He remained silent. Though the horse belonged to him, but he remained silent. And in front of C, A was saying that this horse belongs to me, and he's selling this horse to whom? He's selling this horse to B. Okay, so this buyer is talking to A, and A in front of C is saying that I'm the horse, don't worry, you can just take it. You have all the permission, you just pay the money to me and you can just take it off. I don't have to ask anyone else. So B bought this horse from A. B will get a valid title. Okay, if if C does not want to sell those goods, if C does not want to sell away that horse, he should have stopped him. He should have stopped A. But since C remained silent, indirectly he gave his right to the other person to sell it further. So that is what here is mentioned, that C by his own conduct and behavior is prevented from denying. Later on, he cannot deny the fact that the person A has no authority to sell. Maybe later on, because it may happen that C at that point of time he did not say anything, and later on he's saying that no, this horse belonged to me, I don't want to sell it. But later on, the law says here that the rights have already been passed to the new person, that is B. He will have the full control over the horse. If you had to stop, you had to stop earlier. Why you have not said anything before? So now you do not have any right to cancel this sale. This sale has happened. So this is a case of estoppel. I hope you all have understood. Are we clear till here? Are we clear till here? Okay, I've got lot many yes. Okay, so I'll move further. Next, sale by unpaid seller. Sale by unpaid seller. So obviously we have the whole unit wherein we will see that if the seller is not paid in full, suppose the price of a particular good was 10,000 and the seller is only paid 8,000, or maybe he has not been paid at all, then in that case he will be considered as unpaid seller. And if unpaid seller still has those goods, that means on constructive delivery the goods are still with him, or maybe the delivery has been delayed or something like that, then in that case he can still hold the goods, he can further sell those goods to someone else to recover the money. That is the right given by law to the unpaid seller. So let me just read it for you. Where an unpaid seller who has exercised his right of lien and stoppage in transit, we will read about these two rights in the next unit. So I'll skip this here. You just read it directly from here, where he resells the goods. I'll just mark it for you. Where he resells the goods, the buyer on such resale, that means the new buyer on resale will acquire a good title to the goods as against the original buyer. So if the seller is holding the goods in a position of unpaid seller, if he is holding the goods in possession of unpaid seller, then he has a right to further sell the goods, and the next or the new buyer will get the same right as that of the original buyer. So this is what is mentioned here. So in this topic itself, I mean, in the exceptions only, you have seen that the seller, even though sometimes he is not the owner of the goods, he might be holding the goods on constructive delivery. He might be holding the goods as unpaid seller. So in both the cases, he can transfer a better title. Even though he himself does not have the title, he still can transfer the title to other person. Okay. Next, this is the last exception which is given. It says that, let me just underline it for you. So it says that sale under the provisions of other acts. Now in other acts also, there are lot many acts. In India, we have so many acts, and based on those acts also, sometimes there are rights given to persons that even though you are not the owner, you can still sell the goods. One of the example is the case of official receiver liquidator of the company. This you have seen or discussed while we were discussing, I mean, Unit 1. In Unit 1 itself, when we discussed the differences between sale and agreement to sell, there was a point of distinction where it was mentioned this official receiver, if seller becomes insolvent and on his behalf, official receiver is appointed or liquidator is appointed, in that case, what will happen? Nowadays, official receiver, liquidator, and there is one more designation which is given. I'll just write it for you. It is insolvency professional. Insolvency professional. Okay, so this insolvency professional can be appointed by, just for your understanding, just assume that he is appointed by court. So the court appoints an independent person so that the person who has become insolvent does not sell off his assets to his near and dear ones, and does not pay his liability, whatever is there. So it is the authority of the court that they appoint this kind of independent person, and now this insolvency professional, official receiver, or liquidator, be it in any name, these persons, even though they are not the owner of the goods, they are not the owner of the property, they will hold the goods in possession on behalf of the seller, and they have the right to sell it further to the other person. And whatever recovery has happened, whatever the amount is received by them, this will be used to pay off the liabilities of the original person, whosoever has become insolvent. Okay, so that is the point mentioned here, that even if a sale is, whenever there is a situation wherein a sale is made by official receiver, liquidator, or the insolvency professional, since these persons are not the owner of the goods, but still in their position also, they can sell the goods and the other persons will get the better title, or they will get the ownership. Whomsoever they have sold the goods, they will get the title, or they will get the ownership. This is the first case. Next case is with respect to finder of the goods. Who is a finder of the good? Can anyone tell me who is a finder of the goods? Suppose your goods are lost. It might have happened in school that your tiffin is lost, or maybe your water bottle is lost. So whosoever has found those goods, that person is known as finder of goods. As simple as that. A person who finds your lost goods. So what is the duty of the finder of goods? What is the duty of finder of goods? He acts just like a bailee. He will take care of the goods. He will try to find out the real owner of the goods, and then he will have to return these goods to the original owner. Okay, that is what the thing is. But the law says that, yes, it is a kind of quasi contract. Very true, very true. So the finder of goods under section 169 of the Indian Contract Act has been given a right to sell the goods. So he can also sell the goods, even though he is not the owner, but he can still sell the goods. So what are the circumstances where the finder of the goods can sell the goods? Anyone knows that? What are the circumstances? What are the circumstances in which finder of the goods can sell the goods and the ownership will pass on to the next person? When goods are in perishable state, very good, Vishnu. When goods are in perishable state, he should immediately, transfer it and get the money. Next, anyone else who knows what are the other conditions? When the owner is not found, very good. After doing a lot of effort, the owner is not found. Then also, and if you have, one more point is there, if you have incurred two-thirds of the value of the goods you have already spent on those, on the activity of finding the goods or taking care of the goods, uh, in that case, you can easily sell the goods. If the owner is found and he is saying that I will not pay you any lawful charges, in that case also you can easily sell the goods. So that is, yes, so that is, the true owner is not found, correct? And if even if the true owner is found and he says that he is denying to pay you the lawful charges, then in that case also you can find the goods. So all in all these circumstances, finder of the goods can also sell the goods and the ownership will pass to the new person. Similarly, in case in this section 176, pawnee has the right to sell. So pawnee basically is a person under pledge. So with whom you have pledged your goods. So again, if the person who has pledged the goods and has taken some loan or any amount, then if the person is not able to pay, the pawnee has the right to sell those goods and he can, recover the money whatever he has given to the other person. But here the important thing is he has to give a reasonable notice. He has to give a reasonable notice. That means he has to inform the person whose goods are lying with him that I will be selling your goods. If you are not paying me in time, I will be selling off your goods. So if reasonable notice is given, he has the right to further sell it. Okay. Are these points clear? Are these points clear? Are we okay with the exceptions? Exception cases, 8 exception cases where the title or the ownership, yes, where the ownership passes, even though you are not the owner. Okay. Now we will be discussing performance of the contract of sale. So next sections from 31 to 44, they talk about the performance of the contract of sale. What do you mean by performance? In contract of, in the uh, Indian Contract Act also, you have seen that there is a specific topic with respect to the performance of contract. What do you mean by performance? Whatever promisor and promisee have agreed, they have to perform their part. So here seller has agreed to sell the goods. He has agreed to deliver the goods. So that is his performance. Buyer has agreed to make the payment. So that is his performance. So both the parties have to perform the contract so that it will finally come to an end. And if any of the party breaches his or her performance, then in that case, it will give rise to the rights of maybe in the case of unpaid seller, or maybe the buyer will have the rights. So that way, the whole topic will go. So let us quickly read this. The performance of a contract of sale implies delivery of the goods by the seller. So from the point of view of seller, this is the performance required. Delivery of the goods is the performance required from the point of view of the seller. If we talk about the point of view of buyer, from the side of buyer, two things are required. One is acceptance of the delivery of the goods. First, whatever has been delivered, you have to accept that, and then you have to make the payment of the price as decided. So that is the thing which is required from the side of the buyer. So this is what is meant by performance of the contract. Okay, are we okay till here? And then we will see the details of this topic. So performance of the contract of sale, what is delivery? And there are 3 ways delivery can happen. So we have all studied about this, that there may be a case of actual delivery, symbolic delivery, constructive delivery. Okay. Now, what does section 31 talks about? So it is mentioned here at the bottom. If you all can see, I'll just highlight also for you. What is the duty of seller and buyer? What is the duty of seller and buyer? So it is the duty of seller to deliver the goods and duty of buyer to accept the goods and pay for them in accordance with the terms of the contract. This is what is contained in section 31. That is it. Section 31 is over. So what is the duty of seller? What is the duty of buyer? It is contained there. Section 32, what does it say? It says that payment and delivery are concurrent. So as soon as delivery is made, you have to make the payment. So that is what is mentioned here. And let us read it further. Unless otherwise agreed, जब तक कुछ और नहीं कहा हो, the seller must be ready and willing to give the possession. Seller must always be ready and willing to give the possession, means he should give away the goods or he must deliver the goods in exchange for the price, and the buyer must be ready and willing to pay in exchange for the possession. So that is the consideration which is decided for each other. This means that free consent has to be there. Both should be ready and willing to do their part of duties. So this is contained in section 31 and 32. Nothing much to be discussed here, but there are several points which are to be discussed from this slide onwards. Rules regarding delivery of goods, section 33 to 41. If you want, we can take a break at this point of time and then we will start afresh this complete topic. Okay, we can have a quick break of 5 minutes. I'm giving it. Let us have a quick break of 5 minutes. What time you will be back? You should be back by 3:22. 3:22. Okay. Okay. I hope my screen is visible. So, these are the rules regarding delivery of goods. So, how the delivery has to take place, what if there is a short delivery, what if there is wrong delivery, what will happen in those circumstances. So all that we will be discussing in this particular topic. Okay, so let us start the topic. If you see, there are various rules with respect to part delivery. What will happen if the goods are delivered in part, if the goods are delivered in installments, if the goods are delivered by carrier, what will happen to that? So let us quickly check all this and understand the points here in short and then in detail. So the first thing is when the goods are partly delivered. So first you have to understand whether the goods are severable or non-severable. If it can be severed. For example, suppose uh, I had ordered two things. One is I had ordered, say, a book, a law book. I had ordered, and second, I had ordered a water bottle. So I have received water bottle, but I have not received the law book which I had ordered. So in that case, whatever I have received, I will get the ownership of that. So part delivery basically means part ownership. Whatever you have got, you will get the ownership with respect to that if the goods are separable, if the goods are different. Okay. But if the goods cannot be separated, then in that case, even if there is part delivery, you will have the full control over the goods or you will have the full ownership. Suppose you have purchased a car. You have purchased a car. However, the horn is not there, maybe, or the steering wheel itself is not there. So in that case, though the goods have been partly delivered, but still you will have the ownership of the whole car. It is just that you can ask the seller to fix in whatever is not there or whatever is incomplete, you may ask the seller to fix it. But regarding the ownership, you will have the complete ownership. So first thing is if the goods are, first you have to identify whether the goods are separable or not separable. That is what you have to identify. If the goods can be separated, then in that case, part delivery means part ownership. So whatever has been delivered, you will have the ownership with respect to that. In case of non-severable goods, you will have the complete ownership. You will have the complete ownership. So that is contained in this part delivery thing. Next is buyer has to apply for the delivery. So it is always the buyer who has to say that I want these goods to be delivered at my home or at my office or at this place. So if buyer does not say anything, it is not the seller to deliver the goods to any place because the shop is the place of delivery for him. He has done his part. He has given away, he has showed the goods, the buyer has accepted the thing. But regarding delivery, if nothing is said, then in that case, seller is not bound to give the delivery anywhere. So it is always the buyer who has to apply or who has to request if he wants delivery at some place. Okay. Next, what is the place of delivery? What is the place of delivery? Place of delivery is the address which the buyer says, or so he may give the address of his home, or he may give the office address, or maybe at any friend's address he wants to deliver, whatever the case may be. So that is the place of delivery. And normally we understand that as a place of delivery, but when we will study these rules, here we will understand that in case of sale, the place of delivery, let me just write it for you so that you understand. In case of sale, we will see that place of delivery is the shop itself, because wherever the goods are present, that will be the case of place of delivery. Next, in case of agreement to sell, since the goods may be, manufactured in future, or maybe suppose let us take the example of uncertain goods. If the goods are uncertain, so if the goods are uncertain or they are lying in the godown or somewhere, in that case, the godown will be the place of delivery. Where the goods are existing, where the goods are kept, that is the place of delivery according to these rules. Next is in case of agreement to sell, or maybe let us say in case of future goods. ATS or future goods, suppose, what will happen is, in case of future goods, where the goods will be manufactured. So suppose goods will be manufactured in factory. So factory will be the place of delivery. So this is the rule which we have to follow here regarding the place of delivery. Normally we understand whatever address is given is the place of delivery, but here in this rules you will understand the place of delivery is with respect to the kind of goods you are talking about. So it is regarding that. Next is the time of delivery, when the delivery should happen. So normally the delivery should happen as per the fixed time, whatever time has been fixed between buyer and seller. So we can say here either the time is fixed. So we took the example of, cake. We ordered a cake and we asked the baker to deliver it by tomorrow. So if you have fixed a time period, then at that point of time, the delivery should happen. And if no time has been fixed, then in that case, reasonable time. Delivery should happen within the reasonable time. So that is what is mentioned here in the time of delivery. Next is the topic with relation to this installment delivery. Suppose you are getting delivery in installments. I had ordered 10 kg of sugar and I'm not getting it all in once. I'm getting 4 kgs in one time. Then again, the doorbell rings, the delivery boy comes, he again gives me 2 kgs of sugar. Then again, he comes and then he gives 2 kgs further. So in installments, I'm getting, sugar, not in a complete set, not in a complete delivery, not a full delivery at one time. So if I'm getting installment deliveries, it is my right. It is the right of the buyer whether he wants to accept the goods or he wants to reject the goods. So if he is accepting, he has to make the payment for that. If he is rejecting, he does not have to make the payment for that. So that is the thing which is mentioned here. So installment delivery. Next topic is with respect to delivery of wrong quantity. So suppose I had ordered 10 kg of sugar, but I have received only 6 kgs of sugar. So I have two options available with me. One option is either I reject the whole of it. I don't want 6 kgs. I want only 10 kgs thing with sugar for me. I don't want the 6 kgs. Or the other option is I will accept 6 kgs and I will pay for 6 kgs only. I will not pay for the complete 10 kg. So that is what is meant here if the wrong quantity is given. So wrong quantity again can be, short quantity or excess quantity. So let me just write it here for you. If the quantity is delivered is short, what will happen? If the quantity delivered is in excess, what will happen? And if wrong goods are delivered or mixed goods are delivered, what will happen? So these are the 3 cases which we will discuss. Delivery of wrong quantity. So if the quantity you had ordered was 10 kg, but you are receiving only 6 kg, So you have the right to either reject the whole or you have the right to accept whatever is given to you and make the payment accordingly. So that is up to you. Excess means you had ordered 10 kg, but you have received 12 kg. Because sometimes it happens that the shopkeeper does not have that amount, that quantity which you are saying. And it may happen that suppose I had ordered a washing powder of 500 grams. The shopkeeper has the same brand but with 1 kg. So he send the 1 kg packet to me. So it depends whether I want to keep it or I don't want to keep it. So again, if you want to reject, you can reject. If you want to accept, you can accept. Whatever you are accepting, you have to make the payment accordingly. So here in excess quantity, if the goods are severable, if you can just, separate them, you can accept till 10 kg and the rest you can reject. If you want, you can accept the whole of 12 kg. That is up to you. What about mixed goods? I had ordered vanilla flavor ice cream. However, I have received chocolate flavor ice cream. So it is up to me again to accept or reject the goods. Accordingly, I have to make the payment. Okay, so that is contained in delivery of wrong quantity. What about expenses of delivery? We are now here on this topic. What about expenses of delivery? So expenses of delivery means the carriage charges, delivery charges. So if it normally depends between the agreement, how the agreement has happened, whether the seller will bear it or whether the buyer will bear it. So normally the expenses of delivery, if they are incidental expenses, that means to bring the goods into the deliverable state. In that case, the seller is supposed to bear the expenses. But if otherwise is agreed, because it might happen that you have gone to a shop and you have purchased a refrigerator, the seller may say that I am ready to send it to your place by tempo, but you will have to pay the tempo charges. So in that case, obviously the buyer will have to bear that. So that is the case which is mentioned here. Next is goods in possession of a third party. What do you mean by this case? Okay, let us assume that I have ordered this cake in the bakery, but I could not go myself to collect the cake. I asked one of my friends to go and collect the cake. The buyer or the seller has delivered the goods to the friend because he has that slip wherein the order is mentioned, and the payment receipt, basically he is showing that, and then the seller has handed over the cake to him. So whether the delivery has happened or not, whether the buyer will become the owner of the goods or not. So think of it in that way. If the third person is now in the possession of the goods, then in that case, delivery will be complete when this third party conveys to the buyer that he has obtained the possession of the goods. Until unless he conveys that, how will the buyer know that actually he has received the goods or not? So the delivery will be completed only when the third person conveys it to the buyer. Okay, so this is meant by this point. Then we are coming to this part, delivery to carrier. So it is basically deemed delivery. We have already read this. As soon as the goods are given to the carrier, or the goods have been loaded to the carrier, the ownership passes to the buyer. So delivery takes place. So as soon as the goods are given to the carrier, it is presumed that delivery has happened. So it is a case of deemed delivery. Next, deterioration. And again, that was a case of appropriation, unconditional appropriation. Also, in that case, also we read this. Deterioration during transit. What will be the consequence if the goods have deteriorated or damaged during the transit from the seller to the buyer? If in between the goods have damaged, who will bear the loss? So that point is mentioned here. So during transit, normally who bears the loss? If nothing is discussed, what does the law say about it? And if the parties have discussed about it, then the thing will go that way. Okay, so deterioration we will discuss. What is the exact rule? Normally, the buyer has to actually bear the loss. Then next is buyer's right to examine the goods. So this point you have studied when you were discussing the implied condition as to sale. Implied condition as to sample. So whenever goods are taken based on some sample, then the buyer has a right to examine the goods. And even if it is not on sample, you have just ordered the goods online, you have the rights to actually examine whether the goods are same or not, as I had ordered. If they are not same, you can simply return them. So that is what is mentioned here. Buyer always has a right to examine the goods. He should be given reasonable opportunity to check whether the goods ordered and what the goods he has received are same or not. So all these points we will be discussing in detail in further slides. So just let me take you to the detailed part. Here it is, rules regarding delivery of the goods. So first is regarding the mode of delivery. Delivery may be made by anything as between the parties. It can be, just let me read it out. Delivery may be made by anything the parties agree shall be treated as a delivery, or which puts the goods in possession of the buyer or his authorized agent. So whether the goods, anyhow, as the possession changes from seller to buyer, then that case, howsoever it has taken place, that is simply known as the goods have been delivered. Whether the goods have reached to the buyer or his authorized agent, maybe the carrier also is his authorized agent only, because he now has the goods. Next is effect of part delivery. This we have seen. Let us read it. Delivery of part goods. If in progress of delivery of the whole has the same effect as of the whole, but part delivery with the intention of severing it from the whole does not operate as the delivery of the remainder. Here, I mean, if you just want to really understand it in simple language, I'm just writing it for you. You can just write it. If the goods are severable, or if the goods are divisible, if you can divide the goods. We have taken the example of law book and water bottle. We have ordered two things. So both of these are different. You have received bottle. In that case, ownership of bottle will be transferred to you. So if goods are severable, part ownership, part delivery is equal to part ownership. If the goods are severable, we can say part delivery means part ownership. But if the goods are non-severable or non-divisible, okay, in that case, what will happen? Part delivery will mean full ownership. So example of car you can remember here. If the car has been delivered to you, but something is missing, maybe the back seat itself is not there, the seat are not covered properly, the cover is not as per your choice, whatever it is. So if that is a case of part delivery, then also you will have the full ownership of those goods. Next, buyer has to apply for delivery. This simply means that the buyer uh, has to request for the delivery of the goods. It has to be expressly mentioned. Because seller is not bound to deliver. Seller is not bound to deliver unless and until buyer asks for the delivery. Next is regarding the place of delivery. Regarding the place of delivery, as I have mentioned earlier, in case of sales, it will be at the time where the goods are lying. In the case of goods already sold, this is the case of sale basically. It is the shop. You can just remember here, it is the case of shop. The shop will be the place of delivery here because the goods are lying there. Next, goods agreed to be sold. So in case of agreement to sell at a future date, so in case of agreement to sell, wherever the goods were lying. So if the goods were lying in, say, warehouse or the godown, that will be the place of delivery from where the goods shall be delivered. And if goods are not yet in existence, that means the future goods, wherever they will be produced, that is the place of delivery. So basically, from where the goods will be delivered, that is the place of delivery for understanding purpose. Next, what is the time of delivery? If no time is fixed, reasonable time will be taken. Normally, the buyer and seller will fix the time, and if they do not fix that time, then reasonable time will prevail. Goods in possession of third party. So if your friend or your agent has the goods on your behalf, then in that case, delivery will be assumed to be complete when he acknowledges to the buyer that he holds the goods on his behalf. Okay. Gangula, you are asking something. Let me just complete this and then I'll ask you to unmute and you can ask. Next, time for tender of delivery. Time for tender of delivery simply means that at what time or basically at during what hours the goods should be sold. So if it is 24/7, if your office is running 24/7, you can get the delivery 24/7. If you are saying that the goods should be delivered at my house between 10 a.m. to 5 a.m., then that is the time of tender of delivery. At night, delivery should not happen. So that is what you have to mention. Otherwise, reasonable hour will prevail. Reasonable hour normally means office hours. During office hours, the delivery will be done. During night time, obviously, the delivery will not be done. Regarding the expense of delivery, it is the duty of seller to bear the expenses in the absence of any contract to the contrary. So until and unless it is otherwise discussed, then all the expenses till delivery will have to be borne by the seller. Sometimes seller specifically asks for packaging charges. Or if you want some additional things to be done, then he wants specifically separate charges for that. So in that case, buyer will bear those expenses. Otherwise, it is the seller who has to bear these expenses. Okay, let me just clear this and let me move to the next slide. Let us complete all this and then we will take up the question. Next, delivery to the carrier. It is mentioned here that subject to the terms of the contract, the delivery of the goods to the carrier for transmission to buyer is prima facie deemed to be delivery to the buyer. It is assumed that goods have been delivered to the buyer himself. So if the goods are delivered to a carrier, it is deemed, it is assumed that the goods have already been delivered to the buyer. Okay, this is the point which is mentioned here. Next, deterioration during the transit. Deterioration during the transit, the goods have damaged during transit. So when the goods are delivered at a distant place, the liability of the deterioration necessarily incidental to the course of transit will fall on buyer, though the seller might have agreed to deliver at his own risk. So according to the law, it is the liability or loss of the buyer. He has to bear the loss of any kind of any deterioration which has happened during transit. Say, for example, we had ordered a slab of ice. Ice slabs are there, no? They come from factory. Maybe they are coming through tempo. So in that case, it might happen that uh, it keeps on it starts evaporating when it comes in the contact of sun. So though you had ordered maybe a particular quantity, but when it reaches to you, because of the natural deterioration, the lesser quantity has come to you. So that way buyer has to bear the damage. That is what. But if any damage has happened due to the fault of carrier or anyone else, then they have to bear the loss. So the natural deterioration has to be borne by the buyer. That is what is mentioned here. Next, buyer's right to examine the goods. Buyer has complete right to examine the goods, to check the goods whether they are the same or not. So he has the reasonable opportunity to examine them. Unless otherwise agreed, seller is bound on request to afford the buyer to provide such an opportunity. That means seller should allow the buyer to check the goods, to examine the goods. And if the goods are not as per the buyer's requirement, he can send them back. He can return those goods. Okay. Let me just take this example which is given here. We sold to Q a certain quantity of iron rods which were to be sent by proper vessel. They were rusted before reaching the buyer. So deterioration has happened. Okay. The rust on the rods was minimal, did not affect the mercantile quality, and the deterioration was not necessarily incidental to the transmission. It was held that Q was bound to accept the goods, because since this is said that this is a normal rusting which has happened, or it has not caused much deterioration, they are still fit to be used. So therefore, Q is bound to accept the goods. That is the case which is given here. Are there any questions? Let me quickly check the delivery of wrong quantity. Yeah, that will come in the next slide, I guess. Delivery of wrong quantity is there in the next slide. Just wait for that. Let me move on to the next slide, and then we can take that up. Delivery of wrong quantity and delivery by installments. These are the two things we have to discuss. So delivery of wrong quantity, if less quantity has been delivered, buyer has the right to reject the goods. Buyer has right to reject the goods, or he may accept and pay as per the quantity he has received. Okay. Next, if he has received excess quantity, then he has all these three options. He may accept the quantity ordered and he may reject the rest of it. So if he has got a parcel of 12 kgs, but he had ordered only 10, he can keep 10 and then can, reject the 2 kg excess which he has received, or he can reject the whole, or he can accept the whole and pay further price, because he has paid only for 10 kg maybe, and further 2 kgs have been given to him. So again, he has to pay for the rest of it. If the goods are mixed with different goods, the buyer may accept. So you can take the example of vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream. So that has been mixed. I mean, I ordered vanilla, but I got chocolate ice cream. So you have the choice to accept the goods and reject whatever is not of your choice. Maybe 2 or 3 items you had ordered, 2 are okay, but the other one, the third or the fourth item are not as per your order, then you can reject either the whole or you can accept whatever you had ordered. So that is what is mentioned here. Let us go and check the examples. Uh, but here the specific point which is mentioned here, that these rules are subject to any usage of trade, special agreement or course of dealing between the parties. So if nothing is discussed between the parties, these rules will prevail. But if the parties have decided something specifically, or a regular trend, market trend is there that in this particular circumstance, this will be the rule, then in that case, these rules will not prevail. The specific thing which is there, it will prevail over these general rules. Okay, so by agreement also you can change these rules. Example here, A agrees to sell 100 quintals of wheat to B at 1,000 per quintal, at rupees 1,000 per quintal. A delivers 1,100 quintals. So he has got excess. So B has the option, B being the buyer, he has the option to reject either the whole of the lot, or he may accept only 1,000 quintals and reject the rest of it, or accept the whole of the lot and pay as per the contract rate. Whatever the rate was decided in the contract, accordingly, he will pay for the excess 100 quintal which he has got. There is one more example. Sale of 100 tons of paper to be shipped in November. The seller shipped 80 tons in November and 20 tons in December. So this is a case of installment delivery. Installment delivery, let us read the theory here. Unless otherwise agreed, the buyer is not bound to accept the delivery in installment. So unless otherwise agreed, normally buyer is not bound to accept the delivery. Seller cannot force him to accept whatever he has sent. So buyer has full right to reject the delivery if it is given in installment. The seller, the rights and liabilities in case of installment delivery and payment may be determined by the parties to the contract. This simply means as in when they are discussing the terms and conditions of the contract with respect to installment delivery also, whatever mutually has been discussed between them, that will prevail. So if they have agreed to installment delivery, how the payment will be done, whether it will be done on the final installment or as the installment of deliveries are happening. So if I have received 4 kg, do I have to pay for the 4 kg now, or I have to wait till the 10th kg is delivered to me? Okay, so accordingly, you have to discuss with the buyer and the seller will discuss among themselves regarding the payment terms, and then the payment shall be made. So let me read this example again. Sale of 100 tons of paper to be shipped in November, the last example which is given at the bottom of this slide. The seller shipped 80 tons in November and 20 tons in December. The buyer was entitled to reject the whole 100 tons. Seller cannot say that you are supposed to accept the goods. So it is clearly mentioned in law that buyer is not bound to accept delivery in installments. He has said that I need the delivery, and if he has specified that I need delivery in installment, then only he will accept. Otherwise, he is not bound to accept delivery in installments. Next, acceptance of deliveries. What is there in this? Let us read it. How to accept the delivery, because we just now read that the performance of buyer, it depends on two things. First performance is to accept the delivery, and as soon as he accepts the delivery, he also has to make the payment. So we all understand how to make the payment. Okay, so that part is quite easy. But how to accept the delivery? So there are circumstances when there is a case of deemed acceptance. मान लिया जाएगा acceptance हो गई है, delivery की acceptance हो गई है, तो कैसे कब मान लिया जाएगा? So acceptance is deemed to take place when the buyer does any of the three things. So any of the three things will ultimately be the example of deemed delivery. So this is contained in section 42. First is, for this particular topic, I want you to just recall the topic of sale on approval. In case of sale on approval, we had 4 circumstances: accept or approval, acceptance is given or approval is given, retention of the goods, payment for the goods, and any other act. So similar kind of cases are given here also. So deemed acceptance, मान लिया जाएगा acceptance हो गई है कब? When the buyer intimates to the seller that he has accepted the goods. Either he will accept, either he will communicate to the seller. Either the buyer will communicate to the seller that he has accepted the goods. Second case is he does any act to the goods which is inconsistent with the ownership of the seller, simply meaning that he has given it further on pledge, or he may have further resold the goods or something like that. He has pledged them or anything, any act which he has done, saying that he is accepting the goods. Third point, he retains the goods after the lapse of a reasonable time. So even after the time period, if you are still keeping the goods, then it is assumed that the goods have been delivered. Normally, when we purchase goods from shop, it is mentioned in the bill that if you want to return it within 7 days. Suppose there's a condition like that. So even if you are not liking the goods and still you are holding it after 7 days, it will be assumed that you have given the deemed acceptance. Now you cannot return the goods because that time period is over now. Okay, so that is the thing given here. Let me read this section 43. Buyer is not bound to return the rejected goods. So if the goods have been rejected by the buyer, he does not want a particular kind of goods. See, let us just consider that example that when you have ordered online, you have received the goods, you don't like that goods, you have rejected already those goods. I mean, these are not the goods which I have thought of. So I want to return these goods. You have rejected those goods. But the law says that it is not your duty to return. That is why the delivery boy is sent by the seller only, and they come and pick the parcel of your rejected goods. So you are not bound to return the goods on your own. It is not your duty. It is not the duty of the buyer. So that is what is mentioned here in section 43. Buyer is not bound to return the rejected goods. He has intimated that he does not like the goods. He is rejecting the goods. But it is not his duty to return those rejected goods. So unless otherwise agreed. But again, the terms and conditions may be discussed between the parties. So if you want to reject the goods, you have to go to the shop and then return it to them. It may happen that way also. Normally in law, it is meant that it is written that the buyer is not bound to return the rejected goods. So when the buyer rightfully refuses to accept the goods, he is not bound to return them to the seller. It is sufficient that he intimates to the seller that he is not accepting that particular kind of goods, or he has intimated his refusal to accept. Next, section 44, liability of the buyer for neglect or refusal. So now we are discussing what is the liability of the buyer, what is the duty of the buyer if he is at any point of time neglecting or refusing something. So let me read it out for you and then we will discuss. When the seller is ready and willing to deliver. Okay, seller is ready and willing to deliver, but the buyer fails to take the delivery within a reasonable time. The buyer is liable for any loss caused due to delay or due to his neglect or due to his refusal, plus a reasonable charges for the care and custody of the goods. So let us take the example here of the constructive delivery itself, wherein we had asked the seller to keep the electric vehicles or EVs in the warehouse. So if any loss has happened, it will obviously be that of the buyer, that we understand. Again, it is the duty of the seller to take reasonable care of the goods. So if insurance is required, if a guard keeper or a godown keeper is required, he will appoint that person. And whatever the expenses are borne by seller, he will get it reimbursed from the buyer. That is what is mentioned here, that reasonable charges for the care and custody of the goods will be given by the buyer. So that is given in the law, that even if that is not discussed, seller has the right to claim it from the buyer. Okay, so let us further read this last one. Proviso, there is a exception given for this section 44. Nothing in section 44 shall affect the rights of the seller where the buyer's neglect or refusal to take delivery amounts to repudiation of the contract. If the contract has come to an end, then in that case, the circumstances will obviously be different. So that is a complete different story. So that is given in the exception. Okay. This we have discussed. Let us quickly have the quiz and then we are open for the questions. Let us see if you can answer these questions. Goods sent on approval become buyer's property at what point of time? I think this is answered by everyone correctly. Yeah, it's option B. It is when it is approved or retained. Next question. Reservation of right of disposal means. Reservation of right of disposal. What does that mean? Quickly answer in the chat box. Yeah, most of you have again answered it correctly. Option B, seller keeps ownership till the conditions are fulfilled. Correct. And which section was it about? Reservation of disposal rights. Any one of you remember the section? Section 25. Correct, Dakshita. Very right. Ananya, Samarth, all of you have given the correct answers. Even the section numbers you are remembering. See, nemo dat quod non habet. So what does this mean? This Latin maxim. The first option, obviously, it is correct. No one can transfer better title than he himself has. Which section? Which section? Come on. Section 27, Dakshata is correct. Ananya, section 27, perfectly you have written. Yeah, Ikra also. Yes. Section 27, these are a very, very important section for this unit. You have to remember these sections. Okay. And then there were some exceptions also. Yes, Akshat, you are right here. Next question 9. Sale by mercantile agent is valid if buyer acts in good faith. It's always in good faith. So whenever we are talking about the exceptions, the buyer will be acting in good faith without having any knowledge or any notice of the previous sale. Correct. The answer is B. Last question. Transit ends when? Normally transit ends when? When the goods are dispatched or the buyer or agent takes the delivery or the invoice is issued or the risk is transferred. Option B, obviously, when the buyer or agent takes the final delivery. So otherwise, the goods will continue to remain in transit unless they reach the buyer or any other person whom he has given the authority. Okay, let me open the session for all of you. You can unmute and ask your queries.
Yes, Divya. Dear students, if you want to raise a query, just raise your hand first. We will allow you the unmute option.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Divya.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. And it's a request, if any student has given their examinations in May 2026 and has cleared the examination or did not clear the examination, please write to me in the chat box. I want to interact with some students.
Yes, the results are also out.
Yes, today.
Yeah.
And 1 and 2 students announced in the accounts class, 11 to 1. So I also want to interact with some students. And if they do not clear their exams, so I want to ask how much marks they scored in business law and what are the chances for improvement.
Yes, sure.
Students, if you're having any query relating to this unit, because we will finish this unit today, and on Monday we will start unit number 4 of this chapter, last unit, Monday and Wednesday. Divya, I think there is no queries. If you want to discuss some descriptive questions, you can discuss.
Yeah,
yes.
I will. I have already shown it on my screen. So
Just discuss 1 or 2 questions. We
Yes.
will allow the then Akshit unmute option. Okay.
Okay. If you can read this question, everyone. The owner of a Fiat car wants to sell his car. For this purpose, he hand over the car to P, a mercantile agent, for sale at a price not less than 50,000. So he himself is not selling the car. He has appointed an agent to sell it further, and he has mentioned clearly that the car should not be sold below 50,000. The agent sells the car for rupees 40,000 to A. The agent sells his car at a lower price. Here you can directly see who buys the car in good faith and without notice of any fraud. P misappropriated the money also. Who is P? P is the mercantile agent. He has misappropriated the money also. That means he has not given it to the owner. he has himself used that money maybe. So J sues A. So who is J? He is the owner of the car. He filed a suit against A, that is the mercantile agent. Sorry, who is the buyer? Who is the actual buyer, to recover the car, because according to him he has not received the money, and obviously he, why will he give away the car? So that is why he has filed a suit against A. Decide giving the reasons whether J will succeed or not. So again, we have to, first of all, when we see that this is a case of mercantile agent coming into picture, we should understand that it is a case study belonging to section 27 and its exceptions. So firstly, we have to discuss section 27, that only owner can transfer his better title. However, there are some exceptions to it, and mercantile agent is one of that exception. Then you can explain who is a mercantile agent, and what are the conditions based on which he can further transfer the title. So we had discussed those conditions, that the agent should be in the possession of the goods. Agent should sell the goods while he's acting in the ordinary course, being the mercantile agent. The buyer should act in a good faith. That means this person A, he's acting in good faith, and during the sale, the buyer had he did not have any knowledge that the person with whom he is dealing is agent or actual owner. He's unaware of that. So therefore, the answer to this question now is the answer to this question. Let me just read it out for you. In the instant case, P, the agent, was in possession of the car with J's consent for the purpose of sale. We assume that the agent P had acted in the ordinary course of the business and sold the car to the buyer A in good faith. So all the conditions are fulfilled. We are specifying that all the conditions are fulfilled. Therefore, A, who is A? A is the new owner. Therefore, A, the buyer of the buyer will obtain a good title to the car. Hence, J in this case cannot recover the car from A. So, according to the Sale of Goods Act, the property now belongs to the new buyer, that is A. So, the car will have to be given to A, and whatever money he has given to, this mercantile agent that will hold good, he will not have to pay anything extra for that. What other remedy is available to recover the money from P and all, that is that is separate thing. So for the purpose of the Sale of Goods Act, we are just discussing the fact that whether the ownership has passed on to the new buyer or not. So yes, the ownership has passed because of this reason. And separately, what you can mention, if you want to, that separate action can be taken by the owner against mercantile agent, because there was a separate contract between them. Agency contract was there. So he has breached the agency contract, and accordingly, suit can be filed against him. There's one more question. I guess we can take this one also. And then, Akshit, if you have any question, we can unmute you. A, B, and C were joint owner of a truck, and the possession of the said truck was with B. X purchased the truck from B without knowing that A and C were also the owners of the truck. This sentence itself tells you that X, who is the new buyer, is acting in good faith, and he's completely ignorant of the fact that this was in joint ownership or something. This truck was in joint ownership or something. So discuss in the light of the provisions of Sale of Goods Act whether the sale between B and X is valid or not. So again, we have to justify saying that firstly, this is falling into the exceptional cases. Which exception it is falling into? It is a case of joint ownership. Again, we have to mention that there are various conditions which have to be fulfilled. First condition is that it belongs to several joint owner, and the person who is finally selling is holding the good in sole possession. So he is having the sole possession of the goods. So the possession also is taken by the permission of the co-owners. The other owners have given him the permission to do whatever he wants. Then next, the new buyer is totally unaware. He is acting in good faith and everything that you have to mention. So in the above case, A, B, C were the joint owners of the truck, and the possession of the truck was with B. So B had the complete possession of the goods, and now B is selling the truck to X. X is the new buyer. X, without knowing this fact, purchase the truck from B. So all the conditions are satisfied. Line by line, we are saying that all the conditions are satisfied. So the sale between B and X is perfectly valid. We have to mention the section number if you remember. Otherwise, you can just mention that it is one of the exceptions of the original rule or the general rule. And it provides that in the case of several joint owners, if one of them has the sole possession with the permission of the co-owners, if he sells the goods to other and the buyer is totally unaware he is acting in good faith, the ownership will pass on. So that is how you have to answer in the examination also. So that is it from my side. If anyone has any questions, we can discuss that.
Yes. Akshit,
Good evening, ma'am.
good evening.
Uh,
Yes, you are having queries with respect to?
Unit 3.
Just first tell me, have you completed the Indian Contract Act?
Yes, ma'am.
Just answer me 2, 3 questions, then we will allow you the asking questions from Sales of Goods Act.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Yes,
Just tell me, yes, you have completed na Indian Contract Act.
yes, ma'am. I completed, ma'am, Indian Contract Unit 1, Unit 2,
Yes.
Unit 3 also, Unit 4. Some portion like Bailey, those was confusing. I'm reading again and again, bailment and
You
good.
have asked so many questions in the Indian
Uh,
Contract Act, and you were
yes, ma'am.
telling that you have
I
completed. No, no. In the last
completed.
class of the Indian Contract Act, you were telling that you have completed the Indian Contract Act with the Sudeep sir.
I completed, ma'am. Really,
No,
really
no.
completed.
Just first complete your Indian Contract Act. If I'm asking you 2, 3 queries, if you able to answer me in the on the Indian Contract Act, only then I will allow you to ask queries from this chapter.
Okay, ask questions.
Yes. Just tell me the right of finder of lost goods.
Yes, ma'am.
Right of finder of lost goods.
Right of finder of lost goods.
Yes.
Section number is once. Right of finder of lost goods is right to keep the item against except the true owner. The finder acts like a temporary caretaker.
Are you opening the Google, searching on the Google?
No, ma'am.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. I am not searching. Actually, in my imperial law book, I wrote the notes, so I memorized.
Okay, tell me.
Right of finder of lost goods is a person who finds goods who do not belong to him. I memorized. Finder is called finder of
Okay.
goods. It is the duty of the finder of goods to find the true owner and surrender the goods to him. The finder of goods has no right to sue the owner for compensation.
How can you,
And
Akshit, yes, yes, I know. How
I
can you
memorized it
say word to word?
because I memorized. I so said to my mother, I wrote questions, 3 questions daily basis. And in previous exam also came this question, similar type of questions. So I memorized. I try to do, and I'm doing hard work daily.
Okay. Acha, tell me what is the difference between, what is the counter offer? Word by word.
Counter offer. Counter offer is the offer which is made by the counter offer. I'm memorizing. Counter offer is the wait counter counter offer is the offer which is made to the offer at public. Uh, Counter offer is the offer which is made to the offer at public. It is also made for qualified acceptance to the modification various of original offer. And sir told one example that A sell is similar plot to B and B agrees to buy it for the amount I don't remember. It amounts to counter offer, and it also means to rejection of
Counter offer,
the
you are telling that it is an offer to the public.
offer to, sorry, public not qualified acceptance. It is offered to how much remember I'm telling. It is the offer which is offer amounts to offers to qualified acceptance. It is the subject to modifications in variations in terms of original offer. It is the rejection of original offer. It is also called as conditional acceptance.
Okay, okay. Now, in every class, I will take your test like this. 2
Yeah,
questions I will
thank you,
ask.
ma'am. Thank you for
Yes.
helping, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you for
Now you can
helping.
ask only one query from Soga chapter. And
Okay, ma'am.
if you clear your two questions, then only I will allow your to ask the query.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. It will
Okay.
be
Now
helpful.
you can ask only
Revision for
one
me.
query because time is very less with us.
Okay,
And
then.
I
Okay,
want to
ma'am.
interact with other students. Yes.
Okay,
Over to
then
you,
I will.
Divya. Divya, you will take only one query. Yes, Akshit.
Ma'am, can I ask? Yes. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, Divya, ma'am, I have query regarding uh confusion regarding sale of return and right of disposal.
Sale of?
Okay, one query only I ask. Sale of this query I'll ask. Huh. This query I'll ask next time. Say sale of return and right of disposal I had last class one confusion.
I'm not getting what you are saying.
I'm asking in before risk prima facie, there is goods sent on approval, sale on return point,
It's
no,
sent
ma'am.
on approval. Yes, yes. In that,
Uh, in, in that uh, in that in that one point is that गुड्स एंड ऑल व्हेन इफ इट इज नॉट अगर उसने सिग्निफाई नहीं करा अप्रूवल को और एक्सेप्टेंस सेलर रिटर्न करा नोटिस रिजेक्शन और टाइम फिक्स्ड हुआ रिटर्न के लिए तो उसको समय नहीं मिलेगा क्या?
तुमको एक पेन दिया है, उसको यूज करके देख लो 2 दिन। 2 दिन के बाद अच्छा नहीं लगे तो मुझे वापस दे देना, अभी पैसे देने की जरूरत नहीं है, 2 दिन के बाद लेकिन मुझे पेमेंट कर देना। ये केस है सेल ऑन अप्रूवल वाला। ठीक है, सेल ऑन अप्रूवल व्हेन द टाइम पीरियड इज फिक्स्ड। 2 days टाइम पीरियड आपके लिए फिक्स था, 2 दिन आपने रखा, कुछ भी कम्युनिकेट नहीं किया, यू हैव नॉट कम्युनिकेटेड योर एक्सेप्टेंस वेदर यू आर लाइकिंग द गुड और नॉट, एंड यू आर स्टिल कीपिंग इट आफ्टर 2 days। तो 2 दिन के बाद ओनरशिप विल बी ट्रांसफर्ड टू यू, you will have to make the payment to the seller. That is what the case is. So retention simply means even after the time period, if you are still holding the goods with yourself, then it is a case of implied acceptance that you really want the goods. Okay.
और अगर
Ownership will pass.
Yes. Dear students, today we have completed unit number 3 of the Sales of Goods Act, and from Monday onwards we will start unit number 4, unpaid seller of this chapter, and we will finish this chapter on Wednesday. And from Friday we are starting our new chapter, that is Indian Partnership Act 1932. So it's a request to complete the study material. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 we are about to finish on Wednesday. So it's a request to complete each and every topic from the study material as well as writing practice, because I interact with some students in today who have cleared the May 2026 examination. They were telling ki ma'am, we have referred the study material only plus live virtual class, and they have done the writing practice. Okay, so just do the writing practice. Instead of writing full answer, now you can write in short notes. Notes you can prepare just whenever you are studying the study material live virtual class में you are referring the notes. Just note down the major points so that it can be easily recapitulate in your exams. Okay, be it your BUS knowledge portal may we have uploaded the notes. You can take that help of that notes, or you can prepare the notes with the help of two summaries. We have provided two summaries at the end of each chapter of the study material. Okay, so you can refer the same. Yes, Jyoti Sani, ma'am, Divya, I am taking one more query.
Sure, sure.
Yes, Jyoti.
मैम जैसे जो गुड इवनिंग मैम।
Good evening.
मैम जैसे मैम जो पढ़ा रहे हैं उनके नोट्स बना रहे हैं, और जो क्वेश्चन करवा रहे हैं उनके भी नोट्स बना रहे हैं, और एसएम जैसे सुबह डेली रीड कर लेते हैं तो
आपकी
मतलब।
वॉइस नहीं आ रही ज्योति, यू आर नॉट ऑडिबल।
हेलो मैम।
हाँ बोलो।
मैम मैं ये कह रही थी जैसे मैम डेली जो करवाते हैं ना स्लाइड्स, उनके नोट्स बनाते हैं, क्वेश्चन भी अलग नोटबुक में लिखती हूँ जो मैम करवा रहे हैं, और जो एसएम से मैं सुबह जैसे डेली सुबह जल्दी उठ के रीड कर लेती हूँ, उनको रीड कर लेती हूँ, समझ लेती हूँ। इज इट इनफ मैम, या फिर और जैसे एसएम से भी राइट करूँ कुछ?
नहीं, स्टडी मटेरियल यू आर रेफरिंग इन द मॉर्निंग, इट्स वेरी गुड, बट यू हैव टू रिवाइज. आपको स्टडी मटेरियल 2-3 टाइम्स रिवाइज भी करना पड़ेगा. ओके.
यस मैम, जैसे वन
yes.
वन डे जैसे मैम ने अभी जो करवाया है मैंने आज कर लिया, जैसे कल सुबह कर
ओके,
लूंगी.
वेरी गुड.
अगर मेरा कोई पोर्शन रहता है या मुझे कहीं कंफ्यूजन है तो कल में बीच में गैप आएगा ना, जो एक दिन का
सैटरडे संडे.
सुबह, हाँ, तो उसमें मैं सुबह उठ के कोई कंफ्यूजन है कुछ है वो कर लेती हूँ
ओके, ठीक है.
मैम. इजी.
बट आप इसके साथ साथ स्टडी मटेरियल के साथ साथ देखिए, आपकी आरटीपी सजेस्टेड भी अपलोडेड है वेबसाइट पे. आपको उन क्वेश्चंस की प्रैक्टिस भी करनी पड़ेगी. सिर्फ स्टडी
ओके मैम.
मटेरियल से काम नहीं चलेगा. आप इन क्वेश्चंस को, आरटीपीज को, 3 से 4 आरटीपीज हैं, 3 से 4 सजेस्टेड आंसर है. May 2026 का suggested answer will be uploaded tomorrow. Okay, day after
ओके.
tomorrow. So you can practice. You have to practice all these questions because जब आप study पढ़ते हो, but when you do the practice reading the questions, only when you will analyze the implication. अभी आपको तभी implication पता चलेगी कि वो questions हमने जो प्रोविजन है वो क्वेश्चन में और आंसर में कैसे इंप्लीमेंट करना है, क्योंकि क्वेश्चंस आपके एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड भी आते हैं. ओके.
Yes, ma'am.
50% पोर्शन आपका एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड है, 50% थ्योरेटिकल है. थ्योरेटिकल में तो आपको याद करना है, बट
Yes,
उसको
ma'am.
कैसे अप्लाई करना है वो आपको गाइडेंस कहाँ से मिलेगी, वो आपको प्रैक्टिस क्वेश्चन से मिलेगी, जितने आप क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिस करोगे.
मैम लो के जैसे मेरे पास पहले के आरटीपी एमटीपी 20 से 30 वो पड़े हैं पेजेस मैम, निकलवाए थे मैंने.
30 पेजेस
मतलब उस जो पेपर्स मैम 20 to 30
नहीं,
पेपर्स.
आप लेटेस्ट वाला पढ़िए. आप ऐसा कीजिए, जैसे वी आर गिविंग एग्जाम इन सितंबर 2026, तो आप प्रीवियस स्टार्ट कीजिए. May 26, January 26 एंड जनवरी आपका 2025 एंड मैक्सिमम 2024 का आप ले लीजिए. May 2024, बिकॉज May 2024 के बाद ही हमारे सिलेबस में चेंज आया है, तो पुराने एमटीपीज, पुराने आरटीपीज पढ़ने से कोई फायदा नहीं है.
ओके मैम.
ओके. और
Yes,
आप
ma'am.
इंटरेक्ट कीजिए क्लास में कि आप अपनी परफॉर्मेंस बताइए वीकली बेसिस पे कि आप कितना कर पा रहे हो. कुछ छूट गया है तो कुछ, वट एवर क्वेरीज यू आर हैविंग, यू कैन रेज योर हैंड एंड वी विल अलाउ यू द अनम्यूट ऑप्शन.
Okay, ma'am.
ओके. ओके, ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट. यू आर गिविंग एग्जाम इन फर्स्ट टाइम सितंबर 2026.
नो मैम,
देन
सितंबर 2024 में दिया था.
ओके, उसके बाद
उसके बाद नहीं दिया
बाय.
मैम, मैं प्रेग्नेंट थी तो मेरी गुड़िया.
ओके. ओके, चलो कोई बात नहीं, आपको थोड़ा टाइम भी मिल गया है प्रिपरेशंस के लिए. अब आप इस टाइम को यूटिलाइज कीजिए और सितंबर 2026 में यू विल डेफिनेटली क्लियर योर सीए फाउंडेशन एंड नेक्स्ट सितंबर 2027 you are going to give intermediate examinations. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
just follow the strategies whatever our faculties and we are sharing with you. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so yes, one more request, please, after the class is finished, please send us the feedback is there after the class is finished. So we are receiving very less feedback. If you share the feedback with us, we will improve our live virtual class. If there are any suggestions, you can share to us. There are positive feedback, there are negative feedback, there is no worry, just share the feedback. We want your feedback of every student. Yes, Jyoti.
मैम मैं ये कह रही थी, जैसे इस ग्रुप में जैसे बच्चे हैं जो भी स्टूडेंट्स हैं, तो मतलब एक ऐसा ग्रुप होता कि कोई क्वेश्चन क्यूरी हो तो आपस में पूछ लेते, डिस्कस कर लेते. अब ऐसे तो ना तो हम किसी को जानते हैं.
नहीं, तो आप अपने आप, यू आर द बेस्ट जज. आपको जो भी क्वेरी है आपके लिए लाइव वर्चुअल क्लास के लिए, लाइव हमने क्लासेस किस लिए रखी हुई हैं, यू कैन कंपाइल योर क्वेरीज एंड आस्क द फैकल्टी. ऑल्सो BOS मोबाइल ऐप इज देयर, यू कैन डाउनलोड इट एंड देयर इज अ फीचर आस्क योर क्वेरी. आपको जो क्वेरीज बताएंगे आंसर स्टूडेंट्स ही होंगे ना, तो वी आर नॉट श्योर कि जो आपको आंसर बताया जाएगा वो ठीक होगा नहीं होगा.
मैम वो शेयरिंग क्वेश्चन के लिए पूछ रहे थे, सर भी आज
शेयरिंग
डिस्कस
क्वेश्चंस
कर
के
रहे
लिए
थे.
आप वेबसाइट पे जाइए, देयर आर अराउंड 600 क्वेश्चंस बेटा.
ओके मैम.
पहले आप वो कंप्लीट कीजिए. आप सोशल मीडिया ये सब चीजें अवॉइड कीजिए. जस्ट बी फ्रेंड विद योर स्टडी मटेरियल एंड ICAI वेबसाइट. ओके,
आई एम नॉट यूजिंग सोशल मीडिया.
ठीक है ना. देखो व्हाट्सएप एंड टेलीग्राम पे अगर हमारा ग्रुप है, बट उसमें मतलब इट इज नॉट बेनिफिशियल सो मच. इसीलिए आई एम सजेस्टिंग जस्ट रीड द स्टडी मटेरियल, अटेंड द लाइव वर्चुअल क्लास एंड go through the BOS knowledge portal.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, all the best. Okay, students, thank you, Divya. Thank you so much. And the notes and assignment we have uploaded on the for unit 4 as well. So just do the assignment of unit 3 and come prepared for unit 4 on Monday. Thank you.
Okay, all the best, students. Bye.
Recording stopped.